What's up, people? I am back for another video. Today, I am reviewing the movie Renfield. I saw the trailer for this like a month ago, and I just remember being like, oh, it's Nick Cage as a vampire. I love Nick Cage, so why not review it? And man, it was better than I expected. I saw it last night, and it was way better than I expected. I didn't think it was going to be that good. I thought it was going to be, interesting, but Nick Cage is definitely one of my favorite Dracula performances. The way he just played it, so like it was almost like a comedy Dracula, but it worked, and actually he still had his moments. It's a comedy horror, but it definitely more leans into the comedy. But there's still some horror. I really like the way they Honestly, I was thinking about this too. The way they were able to merge stories, like you had a Dracula story, about this. It was more about Renfield, who works, so he's a familiar for Dracula. But they were able to merge that story and because you got the police hunting down the Lobos, who's this gang who runs the city. So, about corrupt police. So they tie that all together in a beautiful, interesting story. Definitely very funny, and I didn't expect it to be so in a good way. How gory it was. They do not hold back. There's this scene where, because Renfield is powered by, basically, if he eats bugs, he gets enhanced, right? So when he did that, this was in the when because the cops end up working for the Lobos. So the cops are there to get Rebecca and Renfield, and Renfield eats the bugs, and he rips the arms of one of the fucking cops, and then he's like beating them to death with them. Or there's one scene where he throws them like a spear and they get impaled to a wall. Like, you do not hold back. The blood in some scenes didn't look great, because the blood just comes out very, it's probably CGI blood, but it's fine. I like how over the top some of it is, man. I really thought they did a good job of explaining vampire lore. I love the chemistry between fucking Renfield and Dracula. Like, you could tell they've been working. They did a good job of giving you the backstory. Renfield, who was a familiar, who he was desperate for money, so he ends up he becomes Dracula's familiar. Basically, he feeds people to Dracula, and because originally going to this 12-step code program that basically helped people who get out of basically toxic relationships and stuff. They did a really good job. Initially, he was there to get victims for Dracula, but eventually it actually helps him get out of his own relationship with Dracula. But they did that in a good way, where it wasn't preachy, because ultimately it was kind of about accountability, because he had to come to terms with what he did. Because you feed people to Dracula. It's very fucked up, and ultimately during a stakeout, because Renfield was trying to get blood victims for Dracula. He tried to feed him some criminals, and Dracula even explains, and I like how this explained it, vampires need basically innocent blood. They're not, criminal blood doesn't help, because Dracula, and they ended up moving to New Orleans because Dracula got into it with some vampire hunters, which I love that opening scene. And this is one of those movies that kind of just goes, they don't really spend a lot of time, no bunch of exposition dump. You kind of get the idea. And Renfield runs into this guy, Rebecca, who basically is the sort of love interest of the movie. But I really like that they don't, it's a case where she's a love interest, but they don't try to force it in the movie. And she's played by Awkwafina, who I'll admit, I find her annoying in a lot of other movies. She was actually pretty decent here. I gotta be honest. She was decent here. She wasn't annoying. She actually played it decent, because she wants to just get vengeance for her father's murder, because she was murdered by the Lobos. That's why she has this big vendetta against them, and it even causes strain with her sister, who's an FBI agent. And I really also like how, she just accepts pretty quick, vampires are a thing. So ultimately, Dracula finds out about Renfield, joining this program and helping innocent people. So he ends up taking Teddy Lobo, who's one of the son of the main Lobo, woman who runs the Lobos. I'm trying to find her name. Oh, Bella Francesca. She was the matriarch of the Lobo family. Um, I love her scene with Dracula. Like how it's another thing. I just like that she was a villain. The Lobos are just a crime villain. They're a crime. The mafia, basically. Like I'm assuming they're not nothing more, nothing less. No, like they're sympathetic or anything. They're like just straight up villains. It's just nice. Same with Dracula. So that's why they like went well so together. So towards the end, um, Dracula ends up making Teddy a vampire, his new familiar, and working with the Lobo family to basically get back at Renfield. So they end up kidnapping Rebecca's sister, so they can bring basically Rebecca to Dracula, who ends up trying to turn her towards the end. And I love the ending where they end up killing Dracula. Well, killing him, but basically, because they basically even say he didn't die, but they chop him to literally bitty pieces. And I'll go more towards that in the end. It's an awesome movie, man. It's just a fun little bits of carnage. It's like, yeah, like I think that's all it really needs to be. So I definitely recommend it. It's a fun ride, even if you don't see it in theaters. Just watch it. It's Nick Cage at his best. Music in general, the cast I thought did a good job, and they even had a whole corrupt cop story, and they didn't make it like weird, like how most things would nowadays. So they actually did a good job with that too. So overall, definitely love this movie. So I'm definitely gonna see this again at some point, maybe this weekend or this coming weekend, along with Evil Dead, which I will review also. So, but other than that, tomorrow gonna list my 6 favorite movies from 1981. I got my list pretty much made, and pretty much number 1 is gonna be a given. It's not gonna be a shocker. Halloween 2, but you got Escape from New York on there. I'll stop there, but those are like my top 2. I mean, when I think 1981 in general, I almost think those 2 movies. So we'll be talking about that tomorrow. But Renfield overall, I really like. So 8 out of 10. Definitely would watch again. I feel like if I watch it again, my rating could go up to maybe even a 9. So we'll see. But let's get started. The movie starts out. You gotta get Renfield's quick backstory. He wanted to broker a deal with Dracula, and he ends up becoming a familiar. And he has, during this, he gets attacked by Van Helsing. And after this, Dracula comes back and makes Renfield his new servant. And throughout basically the decades or centuries, pretty much, he basically Renfield, feeds Dracula people. So, in current time, Renfield, his powers are basically triggered through eating bugs. So he joins this 12-step program, which is trying to help people get out of toxic relationships. I love the scenes in this, by the way. It's probably some of my favorite scenes in the movie, are just those sections where people are going on about their getting out of toxic relationships, which originally he was basically there so he can get Dracula victims. And while this is going on, you got the Lobo gang causing havoc, running the city, and Rebecca is a cop trying to stop this gang. And while this is going on, he ends up going to the warehouse, and this is where we get our first bit of carnage, where Dracula, because he ends up, Renfield needs to get some victims for Dracula, so he ends up killing one of the people that was, I guess, one of the girls there was talking about her boyfriend Mitch is abusive, so he ends up going there and basically killing them because but they end up stealing drugs from the Lobos. So Renfield kills them, or some of them, before Renfield's about to kill Mitch, before another guy who's sent by the Lobos to kill him. And Renfield ends up killing him. Like, the violence, man. With I think he throws, either, I forgot, it's some kind of disc that's really sharp, and chops, this dude's arm off. He kills, the Lobo, hitman, he punches his head off. They don't hold back on the violence, man. So after that, Bella Francesca basically puts a hit out on Renfield. So we get a chase at the police checkpoint into the DUI check, because that's where Rebecca works. And they end up catching Teddy, but he is instantly released. And her arc is because her father was killed by the Lobo family. She wants to get revenge, and she's willing to do anything, but the Lobos are constantly released. So Teddy gives him a body of one of the, the men that work for Teddy, and God fucking damn it. But Dracula informs him he needs blood of the innocents. He's like a bunch of cheerleaders. Like a busload of cheerleaders, some nuns. I'm trying to remember the other one he mentioned. So he orders Renfield, because he even slices his chest, and basically Dracula's blood basically has regenerative qualities, so he basically will abuse Renfield and nearly kill him, and then just give him his blood to heal him. So Renfield then goes to a bar to try to get some victims, and while there, Teddy and his men break in and try to take it hostage. Then Rebecca arrives while there, because she gets a lead back to that hotel, and then they end up taking out most of Teddy's men, and Teddy runs off. This scene too, this is where we get a lot of way more gore, and Rebecca needs witness statements, and the cops are noticeably not taking witness statements. Oh, sorry, I think I jumped ahead. That scene. This is the scene where Bella Francesca orders the hit on Teddy. Not Teddy. On Renfield. Well, she didn't know who him by name at that point, but she just said the man who tried to hurt Teddy. And Renfield ends up arriving at Dracula's location. Dracula taking out most of Teddy's men, and this is where Teddy tells Dracula that Renfield's been helping people and doing good things. And this is where Dracula leaves Teddy alive. He's now fully, because throughout initially starting, he's burnt, still injured, recovering from his injuries. Now he's full on regenerated now. So he ends up finding Teddy at his new house, because during this, he's actually starting to take advice from the 12-step program. And I'm not going to lie, those scenes are really funny. They're like I said earlier, they're my favorite parts of the movie. I love the main guy. He's so good. But yeah, so Renfield arrives back at his house. Dracula is there. Dracula basically, so instead of he basically essentially fires Renfield and wants to make Renfield pay, so he slaughters the group. And after disappearing, it looks like Renfield did it. So Rebecca and her partner arrives. They call it in, and this is where we get the reveal that the police are corrupt, including her partner. That they've been working for the Lobos. That's why her father's murder was not solved. So she ends up escaping with Renfield, and she ends up getting hurt. And Renfield took her back to her house, and this is where we kind of get more of his origin story. And she ends up basically trusting him. I really do like how just easily she just accepts, yeah, Dracula's real and vampires are a thing. So she ends up calling her sister and following up on a lead. This is where we find out that her sister was actually Actually, no, that's a bit later. They end up getting found by the corrupt cops, and this is where we get the cool fight scene, and the scene where fucking Renfield, because he seen earlier games, like he gave like this kid, like a neighbor of his, a bug, because of like this is when he was like giving up the whole going through the 12-step program, but he ends up getting the bugs back and eating them, and this where he gets his energy back, and we get some cool. He was fucking these guys up, man. And then the last one where he jumps on this dude, is he like, because Rebecca like shoots this guy and he's like falling, but I think he's like holding on her, and Renfield like jumps on his head and he basically like smashes into pieces. Like, it is crazy, the violence. And then so they end up trying to meet her sister, but this is where we find out that her sister got kidnapped. And they end up having to go rescue her. This is where they go get weapons, and Renfield tells her to go get like salt, I think salt, or hold on. Basically, because they had to make a magic circle, so they end up invading. Well, before this, I liked the meeting of Bella Francesca and Dracula. I don't know why. I found it funny, and it was just nice to have a genuine, even in a more comedy movie. It's just nice to have a villain, like something we haven't really had in a while, where nothing made her a villain. She's just a mob boss. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. So Dracula has basically enhanced most of the global family, because they've now because some of them have now basically same supernatural ability as Renfield. Renfield goes through most of them. Dracula tries to convince Rebecca to join him, because he ends up showing her that her sister Kate was basically nearly dead, and basically says if he gives her powers that she has to join him. So she fakes joining him, but it turns out she opens this button that's an opening and shutting the window, and it's sunny. The sun goes in. Dracula gets injured, but they confront. Then Renfield confronts Dracula finally, but Dracula initially beats him, but then Renfield gets his powers and takes out Dracula, basically fucks him up pretty much, and Dracula then throws him off him, and then he's about to jump on him, and then she uses cocaine or drugs, I'm assuming cocaine, and makes a circle which traps Dracula, and then they basically this is where they cut Dracula to little pieces, and because they end up using Dracula, but to resurrect his sister, or not his sister, Rebecca's sister Kate, and Rebecca and Reform. I love that he brings back his self-help group, and he basically kind of becomes so he can make a new life for himself. Just a simple ending. It's it's a very straightforward movie. I really love the way Nicolas Cage played Dracula. He played in his own way. Like, he had a very very ham, but still serious in some scenes, and it worked. And I love, like, I gotta say it, now he's in one of my favorite Draculas now, so I gotta give it to him. And it's weird because it's not just a straight up Dracula movie, like a traditional Dracula movie anyway. Nicholas Hoult, I thought, did a really good job as Renfield. He was funny. Everybody, I thought, did a really good job in this movie. And the way they were really able to merge, vampire story with, like, a fucking mob kind of story, and it made sense. And yeah, definitely would watch this one again. I think this one is a fun one. The violence is fun. Fun characters. It's just all around generally funny movie. Like, I found myself laughing a couple times. Like, and yeah. So that's all I can say. Not really a lot because the story is very basic and simple, and that's sometimes it needs to be. It doesn't always need to be this crazy story. So yeah, an 8 out of 10. Definitely gonna watch it again at some point. At least within the next few weeks, I'm gonna try to watch it again. So tomorrow, gonna, like I said, list my 6 favorite movies from 1981. I feel like 1981 is another really good year. Definitely going to be a couple of horror ones in there for sure. Because 81 has some pretty... If you had if I could make a bigger list, it'd basically all be horror. Because you had, like, The Burning. There's going to be some runner-ups. Like, The Burning was going to be one, but I just couldn't probably objectively say that was my favorite film from that year. You have... I'll probably have to look up some of the runner-ups, but I got a couple. But definitely, like, the 6, like the main 6 I got are I mean, 81 was a good year. So definitely, like, when we probably get to like 84, I could probably make 10 from 84, or close to 10, because 84 had a lot. So definitely. But anyway, Renfield was great. I definitely recommend go see it. It's a fun movie, though. But as usual, hold on one minute. As usual, I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Peace.